all about, well, I sound mad New York. Okay, character development. So I know this is one of the things that we as writers get stuck on from time to time. Um, because I've spoken to some and they have told me like it's either they don't know how to end the story or they don't know how to start the story or they have like the story in mind but their characters are so dry because they don't know how to develop the character properly and blah 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 blah. And my best bet and my advice for people who are like trying to develop their character, you can read books about it because that's what I do. But my best bet, especially if you want to make the character relatable, my best bet is to pay attention to people. I mean, it's the obvious, but people don't really, you'll be surprised how many people don't really do that. And just like listen to people, listen to their stories, like pay attention to the conversation. Because I mean, we all have that habit of like dozing off and thinking about something else. Meanwhile, the person's just like chit chatting away. um, do your best to like stay on point when talking to people because the type of stories that they tell and the things that they say could be surprising, hilarious, sad, happy, whatever. I have an example. Okay. So I wrote 3 books, right? And I'm not done because I have more to write. And one of the books that I wrote that I am putting out first is a remake of a fairy tale. Now, hear me out. I feel like as new writers, think of it this way. So, a new artist comes out, right? Like a rapper, singer, whoever, and you notice that they always tend to do remakes of songs from like the early 2000s, 90s, 80s, 70s. And it's like I feel like they do that. Not only that, it's been done so many times, but like as a new artist, like people don't know you, like they don't know you like that, and people usually buy and listen to who and what they're familiar with. Like going out to eat, you usually get the same thing all the time, unless you're like that type of person that likes to try new things. But for the most part, people usually stick to what they know, and they don't feel like dabbling into some new shit. And so with artists, I feel like they remake old songs and it's even though the artist is new, you're familiar with the beat, you're familiar with the chorus, the lyric, whatever. So you give it a listen and then eventually at some point like the artist has to break out and do their own type of style because that's what people are going to look for. Like who are you and what do you do? Like I want to hear you. So when it comes to writing, I feel like with new writers, I mean, you can put out original stories, of course, but I think like as like a cheat code, I think it would be cool to remake like a fairy tale or whatever and put it out there because even though people may not know who you are per se, they are familiar with um, Peter Pan, I don't know, Rapunzel, Sleeping Beauty, whatever. They're familiar with those type of stories. So if you put your own twist to it, it won't be too far off for them to like not want to buy your stuff because it's just like, okay, this is different. Um, I remember Rapunzel and da da da. I watched the movie, I read the books, but what's this one about? And then after a while, like if they like your writing style and all that stuff, they usually tend to like look into what else you do besides like remaking fairy tales and stuff. So, what I did, and in this remake of a fairy tale, there's this prince, and I thought I was going to have a difficult time because I am not a guy, and I don't, I'm not in a guy's shoes. So I figured writing a male character was going to be difficult. However, as I pay attention to dudes, I'm just like, oh, this is too easy. And I'm not even going to try to. Okay, I'll talk about a little bit. So, in the book, of course, this prince likes the girl, and I didn't make it a whole too much of a cat and mouse chase because I didn't want it to be like a long, prolonged book. So, I had to shorten it. But in reality, when it comes to guys getting with a chick, I don't know, for some reason, it's like they make things too difficult. Like, let me see how much I got in the timer. Okay, cool. So, for example, I speak to a lot of dudes. I'm cool with a lot of dudes, and I sit back and I laugh at their stories and observe what they do. So there was this one guy. He had a huge crush on this girl, and every day he would go to the deli where she works, and they would talk and blah blah blah, and he had her on the ropes. Like she was feeling him, and then after a while, it was just like, she stopped texting him. She didn't. She was just being very cold, and I know why. It was because he was doing too much. He was showing up at her spot, just talking to her for like a long ass time. When he could have just fell back. Like, don't be too needy, and that's what he was doing. And she looked like a go getter. So there's that. There's this other dude that I observe at my job. Every week he was talking to a new girl. Every single week, different chick. And they wasn't, they wasn't really feeling him like that. Eventually he did got someone to like stick around, but then again, I think it's because he was desperate, and the chick that he got with is pretty insecure, and a desperation dude and a broken spirited chick does not go together. But this is based off of my observations, and I see this time and time again with dudes, like even people, guys in my family, everyone. So for me, when it came to writing this prince down, it was easy. It was too easy. It was just like first I took notes of being needy. I took notes of trying too hard. I took notes of like when they're not like when guys are not trying to get with the chick, they are the most coolest, funniest. I've speak to so many guys that have like the coolest personalities, like just funny, just fun to be around. But then when it comes to when they see someone and they're just like, oh my God, it just, the whole vibe just falls apart. And it's like, oh my God, like I don't know. I don't know what goes in their brains, but they just think too much. And it's, I don't know. But that's just my observation off of paying attention to guys. So I would advise to just observe people, talk to people, and take notes, because it's hilarious the things that you could come up with when observing people. So, yeah, that's the advice I got for now.